PKI and credential management cloud migration. What's really happening right there? This is our title. Our speaker is Anders Adolfsson. Mr. Adolfsson is the Global Product Manager at Versasec. After this session, you will know about options of moving identity and access management to the cloud and the greatest challenges. My name is Thierry Musol. I'm the Alliance Partner Marketing Director at Thales CPL, and I will be the moderator for this session. As a reminder, today's webinar is part of the 2021 Thales Cloud Security Summit, our global 2 days virtual event. So please take advantage of the expertise offered in the other sessions. Before we begin, I would like first to discuss a couple of housekeeping items. The webinar will last 45 minutes and it is recorded. So if you need to leave or want to share this content, it will remain available to you. Throughout the webinar, if you have any question, please send them to info@versasec.com. I repeat, info@versasec.com. If we don't answer your question during the Q&A session at the end, Versasec will come back to you after the webinar. The presentation and other useful resources are available for you to download on the Attachments tab below the player window, so just below. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Anders Adolfsson. Hi, Anders.
Hi, Thierry.
Good to meet you here. So Anders is an experienced solutions architect with extensive experience in bringing products and ideas to the market, mostly with new and emerging technologies intended for Fortune 500 enterprises. Anders has been with Versasec for nearly 5 years, and he brings to his position more than 25 years of experience in IT. He was in sales, pre-sales, services, product management, and development. Prior to his product management role, Anders worked as technical consultant in the Nordics and as the company's IT director. So, ready, let's jump to our talk, Anders. So first, Anders, I have a very first question. Being there, we understand we are here together to talk about PKI and CMS cloud migrations. What is CMS, please?
CMS, it's short for Credential Management System. Its main responsibility is to manage credentials, such as physical smart cards, USB crypto tokens, virtual smart cards, ID Prime Virtual, and Windows Hello for Business. CMS manage the full lifecycle and other related tasks of these credentials. In order to be able to manage the credentials, the user data and certificates, the CMS needs to integrate with other systems. Main integration would be a PKI, a public key infrastructure, where a certificate authority is used to issue certificates for the users and their credentials.
Okay, thank you. Very clear. So, Anders, you mentioned credential lifecycle management. What is that, please?
I have a good slide for this. Credentials, they all have a life cycle. The life cycle starts when they are registered and issued to a user. During this step, the credential is personalized with user data and perhaps even with a photo using a smart card printer. In the issue step, we also integrate with the PKI to issue certificates on behalf of the user. Once the credential is issued, it is time to activate it. Activating involves setting a user PIN or a PIN code or PIN codes, either by setting it with the user in the same location as an operator, or by shipping it to the user and allow for the user to unblock the credential and to set their PIN code. We now have a credential in the hand of the user with a PIN code that only the user knows about. What can now happen is that the user might forget the PIN code, so it has to be unlocked. A user might arrive to the office one morning with the credential left at home. What can be done then is to issue a temporary credential. If a credential is broken, stolen, or lost, it needs to be deleted. Deletion involves certificate revocation and unregistering the credential from the CMS. If the employee are leaving your organization, you want to revoke and retire the credential. In this case, you can also unregister the credential to have it receive its default values and remove all personalized information from it. This will allow for the credential to be reissued to another user, and this also completes one life cycle of a credential.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. That's very clear. So we have the context of our talk here, definitely. Now let's move forward to what end users want and do. Are there any trends when it comes to authentication in cloud?
Okay, and the trends. I would not say a clear trend, but what we do see is that some organizations are cutting corners and replace PKI and PKI credentials with less secure options, often as a part of a wider IT cloud migration project. These days, there are so many options. With cloud, the speed of invention is crazy. It's hard to keep up and hard to make decisions. Many are looking for options to manage identities that cut costs in maintenance and to respond to the request from within the organization of new means of authentication. Some of these options are good, but many will run into issues with existing organization policies. They can be horrible from a security standpoint, and also they can come with bad usability.
Wow. So what do you mean by some ways to authenticate kind of issues? You worries me on this here. So you mentioned policies, security, and usability. Can you please explain?
Okay, I can give an example of poor usability, OTPs, where user receive a one-time passcode for each authentication. To perform authentication, the user are forced to start by unlocking a mobile, find and start the correct application, generate a one-time passcode, and then type that random passcode into the authentication field on their computer. This has to be repeated for each authentication, causing confusion and anger. Um, when it comes to breaking policies and decreasing the security level, as an example, we see SMS and OTPs time after time being exposed as highly insecure options. Other more secure options can have other flaws or miss components that make it hard to keep your current policies. An example on this would be the enrollment step, where people are simply given a password and then asked to use that to enroll a more secure form of authentication. Securing the enrollment stage is crucial and shall not be neglected like this. Um, Many organizations have decided to move all IT to cloud solutions. PKI is in many organizations as the cornerstone in defining trust and authentication. If they have PKI and PKI credentials in place, running on-prem, they have the challenge of migrating this to the cloud or look for other options. Migrating this type of technology to cloud can be challenging, so cutting corners might be tempting.
Mhm. And so, what is a typical situation of a customer when asking for recommendations about moving PKI and credential management to the cloud, please?
Um, A typical and very common situation is an organization that has decided to migrate on-prem IT to cloud solutions. Main part of on-prem IT might already have been migrated to cloud, such as CRM, Office, file shares, email, collaboration, and so on. But far down in their basement, they have this rack housing the HSM, PKI, and credential management system. Also take into calculation here in a migration are the remote offices. and work from home users that might have to visit the head office for credential lifecycle tasks. The PIN unblocks, reissuance of broken or lost credentials, issuance on for new employees, certificate renewals, and so on.
Well, that's quite a lot indeed.
Mm.
What can Versasec and VSec CMS then do for these organizations?
Okay, so what Versasec and Versasec CMS can offer is a way to perform a smooth step-by-step cloud migration project, leveraging existing tech stack to go for best of breed PKI, HSM, and credentials by adding new cloud services to the existing deployment, all while leaving the user credentials fully working without any interruption during this migration. But technology is not all here. There are also existing processes that are time consuming and expensive to replace. Replacing them might also mean breaking policies. You have
Okay.
processes for enrolling a credential to a new employee, to remotely unblock credentials, renew soon to expire certificates, and so on. These processes you want to keep or improve.
All right, understood. But what would be a path forward to keep current security policies and certainly gain usability and avoid impact on current processes?
First, I think we need to define what systems are involved here. There will be an HSM, the anchor used for securing the private keys,
Hmm.
a PKI, user directory, and some sort of setup to be managing the PKI credentials, the credential management system. A good way to migrate this existing PKI-based identity and access management technology stack, if we call it that, is to go with something that supports existing on-prem infrastructure, cloud native, and hybrid solutions. This would allow for a smooth transition from on-prem to cloud without interruption to the users and their existing PKI credentials. In order to be able to keep the processes and not to be breaking security policies, you need to find a CMS solution that not only integrates with your chosen PKI, HSM, directories, card printers, and so on, but that is also highly versatile and offers many different credential issuance options. Also important to research are the options for doing the PIN unblocks, self-service, remote device management, and secure remote issuance.
Mhm. I think that the customers have a big question there. So can their existing PKI infrastructure, HSM and PKI credential be leveraged, or are they all obsolete when migrating to the cloud?
Okay, that's interesting. As the product manager at Versasec, I will answer this in the scope of our credential management system, the VSec CMS. So VSec CMS is vendor independent and support multi-use case configurations. VSec CMS supports a wide variety of PKIs, on-prem and cloud managed. You can still use your existing on-prem PKI and combine it with a cloud managed PKI, or perhaps you want to use both in parallel during a period while migrating. The PKI credentials are independent of where the management infrastructure is deployed. With that said, you do still need to think about the maintenance part for the life cycle of the credentials. There are several options and all depend on the current infrastructure. Are there parts of the setup that are close to end of life or already obsolete? Can these be replaced with cloud native options that both support the current on-prem technology and the end goal to go full cloud? Then I would look at the credential management system. Can it support cloud infrastructure like the managed PKIs and cloud HSM? Does it have user self-service, the remote credential management, integrations with IDPs, cloud directories, and does it have support for a big range of both physical and virtual credentials? All this while keeping in mind to include your current tech stack and any future need you can predict. Um, Also, what does the future of your existing solution look like? Will you be able to grow and change with the solution? Does it support many different PKIs, HSMs, credential vendors, and models? Or is it depending on one or a few vendors?
Okay, a lot of things to consider, definitely.
Yep.
Um, okay, so let's say now we decide to move to the cloud. So how will the user and their credentials be affected?
Yeah. Usually, as a first step, we migrate from the existing CMS solution if it's not already Versasec CMS. This step involves taking ownership of the credentials. During this step of the migration, the user credentials are left untouched and are fully functional. Once the credentials are managed by Versasec CMS, we can start the migration process to the customer's chosen and deployed cloud PKI. This will involve changes to the user credentials. But while the user is still in the regular office environment, regardless if it's at home or a remote office or in a head office, the users will be fronted with a request to click a button to update their credential. With with that click, the migration process of the credential is performed and completed. The migration process usually involves revocation of the existing certificate or certificates and issuance of new certificates from the new PKI. It can also involve setting new PIN codes. All this is done with no interruption to the user. No mass migration, no collection of all credentials or issuance of new hardware. We now have migrated the PKI credentials to be managed from a cloud-based credential management system integrated with a managed PKI, all secured with a cloud HSM. And all the user had to do was to click a button and wait for new certificates to be loaded to the credential. There was no help desk or service desk needed, and there was no trip to the office. All was done remotely. Um, Depending on the current processes or credential management lifecycle tasks, we also replicate or improve on them in collaboration with the customer.
Okay, that sounds very nice.
Yeah.
Actually, a very easy migration. You talk about support for multi-use cases and to be vendor independent. Why is this important, please?
Um, if you are to migrate to a cloud solution that is tied to one supplier and or one single use case, you will most likely have to make changes in existing policies, processes, and credentials when migrating to a solution like that. For a smooth transition in your migration project, it is also important that the credential management system can be configured for on-prem and cloud third-party integrations. You want to be able to be fully operational in existing solutions while migrating. Perhaps you also want to take the opportunity of adding use cases that increase your security posture and improve on usability. PKI and PKI credential is, as many knows already, but it's more about authentication. You have the option to add certificates for document signing, file and email encryption, and more. Um, Migrating to the cloud is more than just technology. You should not demote your security policies. Have to change your processes, replace the hardware credentials, or in any other way change the experience for your user base, IT, and help desk organizations. When migrating to cloud solution, do not fall into the trap of enabling a weaker mean of authentication during the enrollment or recovery of the MFA device. If the MFA device are enrolled using OTP or password only, they are just as exposed as if replaced by a OTP password-based authentication method. By selecting an independent credential management system that supports all major PKIs and has a long list of other out-of-the-box integrations, the organization is able to find the best fit for their current use cases with room to expand and change.
Well, thank you, Anders. This has been very informative and comprehensive. If you were to highlight something that the audience should take away after this session, what would it be?
Thank you. Two things. Your policies and processes exist for a reason. When migrating your identity and access management solutions, look for solutions that meet your policies and processes. Don't compromise your security. Second, don't limit your growth. Plan for the future and make sure that the solutions you are migrating to are not digging you into a hole.
All right. Thank you for these 2 points, two takeaways. Let's move to questions we have. So let's have a
Okay?
look. For the audience, I remind you that you can send your questions to info@versasec.com. So please don't hesitate to do so. Okay, I think we have a first question that is about remote workers. A lot of users are currently home-based, and most likely this will be the case even after the COVID. Yes, I guess so. How does your solution help us to manage their devices, and does the cloud deployment make this more difficult?
Okay. Um, with the use of V6 CMS and its user application, user can perform self-issuance, revocations, renewals, and pin on block. A typical issuance process can be that the user inserts a blank credential to their computer. The issuance workflow is started. The user is asked for identification, either using existing domain credentials combined with the one-time passcodes or by using an IDP identity. Last step is the task of unblocking the issued device for the user to set a PIN code. Here you can add a secondary identification step to further increase the security level of the self-issuance. Once a PIN is configured, the device is ready for use. This task of self-issuance can both be performed when authenticated to the computer or directly from the Windows authentication screen using our credential provider. Another common workflow for remote user issuance are to perform the issuance in batch at the office and then have the device shipped in a blocked state to the user. Blocked state means there's no PIN code, so the device cannot be abused if intercepted. Once the device is received by the user, the PIN unblock flow is initiated, and depending on the configuration, any of our supported means of identification are performed, and user sets their PIN code. These use cases both work in a traditional on-prem deployment and a cloud deployment. As in both cases, the users are remote to the server and system admins and agents.
Okay. Okay, thank you for this first answer. We have a second question. Is there a cloud solution for your credential management system? Well, I think we covered this.
Yeah.
And
Versasec CMS is available both on Azure and AWS. We are also to release our Versasec Cloud in the first half of next year, 2022. So please keep your eye on versasec.com/cloud for any update.
all right. So I think some people want to find more information about you. So will you share slides? Do you have any notes? So
Yeah, slides. Yes, the slide will be shared, and you can, of course, reach out to Thales or us at Thierry said at info@versasec.com, and then there's the versasec.com/cloud landing page.
Okay, thank you. That's clear.
Yep.
Another question. So besides PKI, HSM, and user directory, what other type of systems can Versasec CMS integrate with, please?
I have a slide here. I think this will get you an idea about the typical integration points. The CMS is the spider in the web of systems and hardware all involved in the life cycle of a credential. Besides the PKI, a user directory is usually an important part of this CMS infrastructure. An HSM can be used for increased security, protecting the master key used to derive all other keys. It is not a demand, but it's something people like to add. For smart cards, using a printer is popular as it can both do batch issuance, where you load a tray of blank cards and then issue a batch of cards all at once. They, of course, also print graphics to the card, such as portrait, logos, and barcodes. During self-issuance, integration to an identity provider is a common way to verify the identity of the user. On top of using or instead of using an IDP, there can be one-time passcodes that are issued over email or SMS. So connections are available for these type of gateways. You might want to write a PIN unblock one-time passcode to a database or another external system for distribution to the user on another channel than email and SMS. Another common integration is to also enable the credential for physical access, being door access, office access, and so on, by integrating with a PACS, a physical access control system. Those I would say are the most common integrations. What is really fun and challenging in this field is that all customers and their environments are completely different. So we really need to be versatile and bring our biggest toolbox to our projects.
Okay, so thank you. That was a lot of information.
Yeah.
So I checked. I think this is the last questions. But thank you so much. A lot of information there again. So for the audience, don't forget that it is recorded, so you can, obviously have a second hearing of this webinar, and I'm sure the audience will appreciate all the very good information you shared with us. Again, I remind you that Versasec is answering all questions they receive on info@versasec.com. So if you have more questions, please don't hesitate, obviously, just after this webinar or after during the week. I think it is time to wrap up. So thank you everyone for joining our webinar today. And I'd like to thank Anders for the great talk we had together. Thank you very much, Anders.
Thank you, Thierry, and thank you all for listening.
So please take a few moments to share what you think of this webinar by rating it and giving us your feedback via the ratings tab below the player windows, just below, for you on your screen. Also, remember to download the attachments that are available with today's webinar. And finally, please visit the Thales Cloud Security Summit event site to see all our webinars that are available to you. Again, thank you very much for joining us today, and bye-bye for now. Bye-bye, Anders.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice evening, day, morning. Bye-bye.